I'd like to call the public hearing to order at 7:30. Public hearing is for the Emergency Department Expansion and Renovation Project. It's an opportunity for the public to make their comments, concerns, questions. Public. Hearing no comments, concerns, or questions, I call the hearing closed. Need a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's time to open the regular meeting. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from February 28th. If I could get a motion on those, please. Mike, thank you. Second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Dr. Anderson, the medical staff meeting summary, please.
So our med staff meeting was just last Tuesday on April 11th. So we had several items to address. Laura Friend went over our ACO results. So it's the beginning of, well, we're approaching the middle of the new calendar year, but we're continuing to collect ACO data. Quality metrics is what the medical staff is most focused on there. Our medical staff and nursing staff at the clinic continue to do a good job with the quality metrics that are part of our ACO. So that's ongoing. Adam Porter, one of our pharmacists, discussed some of the new 2023 requirements for antimicrobial stewardship. So appropriate use of antibiotics continues to be a big deal around the country, both at the state and federal level. I think the requirements for us kind of come through IDPH, if I remember correctly. So our pharmacy staff will be monitoring use of antibiotics perhaps a little closer than even what they have in previous years. But that is an ongoing thing as long as I've been in this profession, just appropriately using antibiotics. So Adam kind of went over some things in that regard. As a medical staff, we again reviewed what we're going to be doing as far as inpatient admissions. You know, with Dr. Brelji and Dr. Hylason going to full-time ER. There's been a lot of discussion in recent months about who will take care of the patients that are admitted once they leave the emergency room, and we've had several drafts of that policy, if you will. And I think at the last meeting there was no further comment, so we're kind of, I think, at a point where we're all accepting of how that's going to go, at least here in the summer when those changes are officially made. The medical staff approved policy on mammograms for our diagnostic imaging department. There's a whole protocol in place for mammography and scheduling of those, both short-term for abnormal mammograms and just the annual screenings for routine mammograms. So that policy was approved. We got a chance to meet Dr. Denning, who is the new cardiologist taking over for Dr. Brandt. And so we met him for the first time at the meeting. He's going to be coming out a couple times per month, providing cardiology services. And then there were a couple items regarding our new Tiger Connect, which is the HIPAA compliant messaging service that we're now using. One of the latest additions there has been the rural health clinic nursing staff have been trained and are now using that to communicate with medical staff and others within the facility. And upcoming, The on-call schedules for the providers are also going to be on that Tiger Connect application, so we're going to be receiving some training in that. So the Tiger Connect application for messaging continues to expand the applications for it. So far it's been a good thing for us. Enhances better communication within the facility. So those are the highlights from the meeting. I'll let Barry talk later about recruitment. Maybe Jill has some things to say about that as well, so I want to touch on that. Are there any other questions for me regarding medical staff issues?
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the quality improvement report. Laura?
Our last quality improvement meeting was in March, so I'll just go over some of the highlights from that meeting. The business office is monitoring hospital and professional billing cycle times, and they're meeting all of their goals on those monitors. For public health, they reported on vaccine documentation and timely disease investigation, and everything was at 100% there. Diagnostic imaging, they look at rescan rates, so if somebody comes in for an x-ray, if they're called back in to have that scan redone, and we're right in line with the national average there. Human Resources does a 90-day check-in with all new hires, and they want that onboarding satisfaction rate to be 4 or higher, and that came in at 4.5 for the average satisfaction. IT evaluated timeliness of ticket completion. Medical records continues to do a deep dive into coding and sees continual improvement there. Outpatient specialty and cardiac rehab, they look at a 6-minute walk improvement for patients that come in for cardiac rehab. They're measured at the beginning and at the end. So continue to see that improvement there, as well as patients receiving their after visit summaries. For the emergency room, we can continue to do a really good job for patients that come in with heart attacks. The average time for the quarter reported was 23 minutes from door to transfer, is what we were looking at there. There was over 60 transfers out of the emergency room, and transfer communication to the receiving hospital was 100% for all of those transfers. Med-Surg looks at follow-up appointments for the patients after they've been in the hospital, and are at 98% for all of those. OB, we look at early elective deliveries without a medical indication, and they were at 0, and that's where we want to be for that. And there was no post-op complications reported and no adverse drug reactions. And as Dr. Anderson mentioned, the ACO measures were covered also, so that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Laura, anyone? All right. Moving on, Karen, the Joint Conference Committee Policy and Procedure revisions.
Okay, so we have the Joint Conference Policy and Procedures. It's broken into 2 pieces. The annual review, so we divide all departments throughout the year and go over all of their policies and procedures, and then the quarterly policies and procedures as well. So I'll pass that around if you want to see those specifically. On the committee, we have Jan and Kate, so they're available. We also have a multidisciplinary committee with medical staff and nursing staff, various departments, et cetera, to review those policies and procedures. So policies and procedures for the entire year, and this was done on February 7th, was administration. Mostly minor changes to current practices, some role or title changes to some of the policies were made. Business office had some updated verbiage to some of their policies. Emergency department, their biggest one was a change to their evacuation plan, updated to responsibilities where they align with our incident command system with the hospitals. So that was updated. Lab has 9 policy and procedure manuals, one for each of their various different things like blood bank, blood gases, etc. Most of their changes were related to their CLIA. So they have an inspection that they have every couple of years, and they come in, CLIA comes in and reviews their practices, etc. So most of their changes were related to that. And let's see, Senior Life Solutions had quite a few changes, basically just going over their policies and procedures since we opened up a few years ago, just making sure everything was still in alignment. You know, as we know, they moved over to another building, so just some minor changes with that move, et cetera, you know, where your exits are, that kind of thing. So those were the full policy and procedure manuals we reviewed. Again, the policies are there if you want to look at those specifically. And then we do look at the quarterly policies and procedures. Anesthesia didn't have anything. Behavioral health, they had an audit as well, so their changes were related to their audit. Diagnostic imaging, some changes to their weekend packages, so just some minor changes to their hours, etc. Dietary, nothing. Discharge planning, nothing. Education, ER, environmental services, and fiscal services, nothing. Home health had a few admission changes to their admission or intake for their patients. Hospice, nothing. Human resources formulated a new HIPAA privacy anytime anyone would violate that, and the guidelines for what we do if that were to be violated. And then there were revisions, some of them changes to their COVID policies, you know, as we're kind of ramping down from that. We have our interpreter services and timekeeping for that, and then some raise changes. So let's see, the nursing administration, and you'll see a lot of the clinical departments now where we did purchase the Lippincott system. So basically Lippincott is a repository for a lot of clinical procedures, and basically they are throughout the country, and they take out the best practices that are out there so that we don't have to be doing all that research. It's all in one place. It's a repository, which is awesome. So we can go to that one system. It's all in the cloud in essence, and we can have it on all of our computers, and we can bring up any procedure we want with all the best practices on it. So it is very awesome, but you'll see a lot of our nursing policies and procedures moving towards that and just saying we're referring to Lippincott because that is best practice out there. So most of the nursing administration ones were any policies that we have throughout the facility that go over all nursing departments were kind of moved up into nursing administration, and then the departments just have their specific, you know, specific to ER, specific to OB, which, you know, those types of policies are just in their departments. So that's the main changes we saw with those. OB, just a few minor changes to their C-sections and some newborn policies. Outpatient department, again, a huge section, but it's all going over to that Lippincott again. Public health, tuberculin skin testing, just some different changes to teaching, training, and observing patients with that testing. And the safety manual, a few changes. We looked at our missing person policy and basically changes some things to in specific areas and how we would go about any missing persons, and corrected some job titles. So, kind of in a nutshell, those are all the policies and procedures. All of these policies and procedures are first reviewed in joint conference committee, again, a multidisciplinary committee. Then they go to the medical staff for approval, and then they come to the board for final approval. If there's any questions, I'll entertain those, otherwise we need.
The Lippincott looks overwhelming. Was it? Were there?
Yes and no.
Much different than what we had, or?
Not really. I think the overwhelming part was just taking your policy and procedure manual and then entering it into Lippincott, because we can enter in all of our personal, like our specific to Myrtue policies as well, and they live under a Myrtue tab.
Okay.
And then you have all the procedures that are just generic, like how to start an IV. That's no different here than it is at any other hospital. Okay. So then we just had to make sure and get rid of those types of policies, but leave our personal policies. So that part was kind of cumbersome, but once it's in there, it's so nice. It's all in one place, and everybody can get to it anywhere in the facility. So.
Okay. Well, sometimes change isn't well received, so I didn't know.
Oh, I think everybody really likes it.
Oh, good.
It's at their fingertips, right at the bedside. It's on all those computers, so they don't have to go, oh, I got to leave you and go, you know, out here and look in a book and then go back in. You know, it's all right there.
I understand.
And there's lots of like patient teaching in there. We can switch it over to Spanish for any Spanish, so it's really nice. We can just print it right out and give it to patients too.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Karen? If not, we need an approval on this policy and procedure revisions. If I could get a motion, please. Moved. Thank you. Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for joint conference committee policy and procedure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the revision to medical staff rules and regs. Mr. Jacobson.
Yeah, this is a change that we made. The medical staff actually approved this in March. It was a change to our requirements for oversight of nurse practitioners. And that's actually on page 17 through 19. And it's on page 18. There's really only one change. Paragraph 19.7 under medical records, the last sentence was added. ARNP outpatient record review shall be determined on an individual basis by medical executive committee. So in the past, we've always required the same level of supervision for nurse practitioners as we have physician assistants, but the state does not require that same level of supervision. It can be a little bit less supervision for nurse practitioners. So what we're proposing to change is that this 10% of outpatient record review could be eliminated for nurse practitioners. We would need to continue that for physician assistants. But the way we're planning to kind of work this through is that the medical executive committee would actually make that decision and have the discretion to remove that requirement for nurse practitioners. So we're actually going to meet on this at our next medical executive committee. They'll get input from their collaborating physician, the nurse practitioners collaborating physician, before they make that decision. But I do need to have the board approve this change as well. So any thoughts or questions on that?
I'll move the approval of the revision to the medical staff rules and regulations as presented.
Okay, motion, please second.
I can second.
Thank you, Jan. I have a motion and a second on the approval of the revision to the medical staff rules and regs. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Zimmerman, it looks like we are down to the approval of the Personnel Committee report.
Okay, we met this morning at 7 o'clock. There were 8 initial appointments, 6 reappointments, and 6 voluntary withdrawals. I would make a motion to approve those as presented.
Motion, have a second, please?
Second.
Mike. Mike, thank you. Motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Terry.
Yes. I'm going to just keep my comments brief and just give a quick overview of the governance forum that IHA put on last Friday and Saturday in Des Moines. Many of you know I've gone to this for several years and I've kept my trustee certification up. I just gave Ruth my sheet this morning with my credits on it, so thank you, Ruth, for taking care of that. But the program overview for the IHA Governance Forum, which happens annually, is effectively governed hospitals require motivated and knowledgeable trustees who understand how to think and lead strategically. The IHA Governance Forum is designed to educate trustees and CEOs on governance functions, healthcare trends, advocacy initiatives, and leadership competencies. So my comments here are just going to focus on that trend piece because that was the opening keynote speaker we had, and it was done by Mary Edwards, who is a national healthcare and public policy executive from the Minneapolis area. And I think she's spoken at this conference before, or she's done other IHA things, but her bullet point of what one of the objectives of her presentation was to identify 3 to 5 trends in healthcare. So humorously, I would say, I wrote down 6 healthcare trends. She said she was giving 7 when she started her talk. So somewhere between 3 and 7 trends were shared. I got 6 of them that I'm going to share with you guys today. So she was talking in terms of trends, not about troubles. So she was clear to start out with just these are trends that are happening nationally. And the first trend she talked about is just hospitals will continue to face growing financial pressure. She attributed a quote from Rick Pollock, which is maybe the executive director of the American Hospital Association. His quote was that 30% of the hospitals nationally are looking at closing in the next few years. So 30%. And after the roller coaster or the cliff we went off with COVID, I'm kind of surprised that's not higher, honestly, but 30% is what they cited. The second trend is that mergers will continue to occur, and probably maybe at a faster pace than what we've seen. Right here in Iowa, both Unity Point and Mercy One, two of the major drivers in healthcare in the state of Iowa, are in line to merge within the next year or two, it sounds like. Unity Point is going to join with Presbyterian, I believe, is the national hospital that it's emerging with. So, cybersecurity in healthcare, IT security. There's over 1,410 attacks weekly on hospitals across the country. That kind of goes in with number 4. The trend is big tech continues to influence healthcare. And Apple CEO Tim Cook, one of his big quotes that was shared was, "We want health to be Apple's greatest communication or contribution to mankind." So you've got one of the major tech companies in the world staking its claim in healthcare. A fifth trend is artificial intelligence continuing to make a difference in patient care and the way treatment is done. And the sixth trend, the last one I recorded, was the staffing crisis will continue. And the key drivers that were cited in that staffing crisis were work overload, insufficient reward, the breakdown of community, and that's community within the different parts of healthcare, an absence of fairness, interpreted through equity in treatment and providing care, a conflict of values within healthcare providers, and baby boomers versus millennials continues to be one of those key drivers in this staffing crisis. And then the other healthcare players continue to be a big part of that as well. And my last note, which may be trend number 7, is that there are 400 insurance companies in the country, and 5 of those companies own 44% of the healthcare market. 400 companies, 5 of them own 44%. So she closed with, "Hospitals are a blessing for those that they serve," and we certainly know that's true here at Myrtue. Driving home the last point was just that advocacy from us as Board of Trustees members is a key component to our part of service in doing this, because our voice does matter and needs to be heard by our elected officials and those that we serve just as much. So again, those are trends. I'll look to Barry, any comments or anything on any of those that you know of?
You know, financial pressures has been out there for a long time and continues to be more of an issue for all rural hospitals. So that's one of IHA's main advocacy items right now, along with staffing shortages. Of course, the shortages increase, help with inflation, or increase inflation, increase cost and wages, which, makes the financial pressures even stronger on hospitals.
Sure.
So those are kind of right in line with what, the discussions I've been having and what I'm hearing from the Iowa Hospital Association and meetings that I attend. So that's pretty much right on point.
I asked Ruth when the last time was that I went. It seems like I did one of these virtually, maybe during COVID, and you said 2021. The room has changed. I mean, there was a lot of new faces and a lot of people that I hadn't met before. I had a chance to meet Dave, the new CEO down at Jenny Edmondson and Council Bluffs, so that was nice to visit with him, and several people that I've met during past years that I've gone to this. But it was very well attended. It was a good day, and I thank, I guess, Myrtue, Ruth, Barry for letting me continue to go and keep that up. So that's it. Thanks, Janine.
Thank you, Terry. Barry, we're at the CEO report.
So we're going to talk about the ED expansion and renovation. I think we started talking about this with the board maybe early 22 or maybe the end of 21. So we've been talking about this for quite some time. I think it was March of 22 that we came to the board and asked for approval to contract with Altus, our architects, to design an emergency room, a new emergency room for us. Then I think again in September we discussed this, September of 22. After some of the design work had been done, we realized that we wanted to expand to the north instead of to the south, and we also increased the square footage during that time frame. So we came back to the board and just kind of reconfirmed that we wanted to move forward with that project at a higher cost. We've had some discussions about construction manager at risk and about Murray Construction. So Ken McCormick and Matt Hoke are here from Murray, and they're going to talk a little bit about the process that we've gone through in bidding and kind of pulling all of this together. But we did talk about construction manager at risk, which is something new that we could do as effective July 1 of 22, and I think that it's been a really beneficial change for governmental entities in Iowa to be able to, use that process instead of the old just go out for bid and hope you get good bids on the day of the bid process. So I think this is a good process that we've gone through. You've seen this before. This is the layout of the ER. Again, we're looking to move, to expand to the north. Ambulance garage is going to stay where it is with some minor changes to the ambulance garage. The current north edge of the ER is like right here. So we're looking at 3,862 square feet of expansion, about 5,000 square feet that would be renovated, and then the garage, like I said, there's some work that's going to be done in there as well, a little over 1,500 square feet. So I don't know if this is that easy to see, but this is where I want Ken and Matt to kind of jump in, and we'll kind of tag team this as we move forward. So do you want to kind of jump in here and kind of talk about the process and what we're coming to as far as our bid, our guaranteed maximum price?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, congratulations on being the first public entity to utilize Senate File 183, which allows public funded entities to use a construction manager at risk for the delivery of projects. Barry, Jeff, Drew, Christy, their whole team, they've really done a really nice job of just navigating through all the rules and regulations, and some of it's not written super specific, so you have to kind of interpret, but they've done a nice job of that. What that really means, though, is you can utilize an AIA 133 2019 edition contract to hire a construction manager at risk. And that is a time and materials plus a fee with a guaranteed maximum price. So the guaranteed maximum price says this project will not cost more than X. It's the bottom number up there. I can't read it from here, but I have it wrote down here. I'll run through it here in a minute. For the scope that of the project. If it does go above that, it's on us. It's not on you. So you essentially transfer the risk from your facility to the construction manager by doing that. Cost of the work is defined in the AIA contract that we use, and then that fee is applied to it. All savings underneath that guaranteed maximum price at the end of the project or just returned to the hospital. Well, you're actually never billed for it. So it's not technically returned, it's just never billed. There'll be a deductive change order at the end that trues up the total cost amount. Schedule-wise, just wanted to hit on that very high level. We're looking at mobilizing mid-July. Interior and site demo, oh yeah, there's a high level schedule. Interior and site demo is kind of that July through September timeframe. Interior build out, and then the new structure for the addition would happen in that September through July of 24 timeframe. Equipment, so the hospital provided equipment, the booms, the med gas head walls, all that stuff. Installation, the inspection, the training, so that your staff is ready to operate in that space when it's turned over happens in that July and August of 24. And then by the end of July of 24, we're complete, we're out of here. There are some follow-ups. There was an 11-month walkthrough, because everything has a 12-month warranty. So we have an 11-month walkthrough. That 11 months after that substantial completion, we come back, we'll bring the architects, we'll walk through. You guys will tell us all the things that need warranty work, and then try to get that all submitted to the appropriate contractors and vendors before that warranty comes up, so that you're maximizing your investment in that warranty. And then the costs sheet. Oh, there you go. So that $7,458,527 represents that guaranteed maximum price for the construction piece. So our contract, well, we already have a contract with the hospital, base contract. We would write an amendment to that contract now for that amount of money. We did receive multiple bids in all 21 bid packages. So we went out we separated the scope of work into 21 different subcontractor bid packages. We got multiple bids on each one, all from pre-qualified subcontractors. So that's one of the advantages of this new law for a public entity, is you get to pre-qualify the people that work in your facility before they come. The old way, you just took the lowest bidder and assumed that they were qualified. 52% of our successful bidders are from within 60 miles of Harlan, so trying as hard as we can to keep as much of your money local as possible. I know 60 miles is a range, but to get the kind of contractors we need for the complex type of work that we do, that we're doing in this facility, and to get them all pre-qualified and have multiple in each bid package, we had to expand that radius out a little bit. And then you are using a USDA grant, which triggers a prevailing wage requirement, and the reporting to the Department of Labor. So all of them requirements are included in this cost too. So making sure that every person is paid according to prevailing wage, according to the position that they're filling in on that project, and then the reporting and certification of all that. As it's a weekly requirement, I believe. So every week that report will go into the Department of Labor. So I know I went really quick. I stayed as high level as I think a board should want it. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions, anyone?
Is that the speeded update with our moving the ER to a different location?
Yeah, we're going to cover some more here.
Okay.
So let me kind of take over for a little bit, and then we can come back to questions at the end. But yeah, so the total guaranteed maximum price is $7,458,527. It's possible that it could come in under that as well. So I know there's several allowances that are included in this where we don't actually have bids on. Maybe Ken, you want to?
There's a couple. Yes, there's a retaining wall that we think we're going to need right out here at the front drive. That design is not completed yet, but we have an allowance that we've worked through with the civil engineer, with the architects, and with the hospital included in here. So it's kind of, the onus is on the design team to come up with a design that fits into that allowance. There was
Landscaping.
landscaping as an allowance because that wasn't designed all the way out yet. So whether we just work with a local landscaper to try to figure that out, or if we just take that money out of the project and the hospital hires someone directly if they want to. We can do that anyway, but we have money in there for that.
Temporary heat and cooling, just so we can manage the construction process depending on what part of the season that we're in. And then there's a little bit of floor patching for the renovation space. As that gets demoed, inevitably it's going to need a little bit of prep before the new floor goes down so that it gets substrate for it to go on.
Yeah, a lot of the walls in your existing area are block walls, CMU block walls, and as we tear them out and try to tie that old floor slab to the new, it's not always true. So there takes an allowance there to figure, and you don't know what it's going to take until you kind of get into that piece of the work. So we carry an allowance to make sure that floor is on level and true when we turn it over.
So those allowances are just that, they're allowances. It could be less, I guess it could be more as well. And we do also have a construction contingency in here of 5%, so that's $347,000 that's included in that guaranteed maximum price. So
I can explain that a little bit too, Barry, that is tracked on a contingency log, and not $1 of that gets spent without approval from the hospital. Like, we'll come to you with a request and say, hey, there was an unforeseen condition. This is how we think we should work through it. We worked with the design team, we worked with the subcontractors, we've worked with Drew or Jeff or whoever is pertinent for that, and we think it's going to take, X number of dollars to make that correction. We would suggest we take it out of that contingency rather than have to write a change order or something like that and then we would disperse it to the proper sub that needs to do that work. So it's tracked very closely, and you always know where it's at. There'd be a monthly report of that. Even if we're not using it, you still get the report.
And then as far as the equipment is concerned, this is kind of a summary of what equipment we would need to purchase as a part of this renovation. And Jeff, maybe you can about that.
We're adding 4 additional rooms, so all the supplies that need to go into those rooms are included on there. So computers, we need to get computer stands or wall mounts to put those on. There's some additional electronic equipment for the room, telephone, such. That's included in that first price. The ER equipment are the beds, any of the like the booms. We plan on 4 booms and 2 trauma rooms and 2 procedure rooms. That's included in that price. So that's ER processing specific items that are in there. The furnitures, the chairs in the rooms, extra chairs, the waiting room chairs and such, some chairs for the nurses at the nurses station, a couple beds, so on in there. Miscellaneous equipment are like grease boards, stuff like that just don't, they're needed to go throughout the whole facility, just accumulated in there. It comes up with a total of about $327,000.
So just a few other comments, and we've talked about this before over the last year. Why are we doing this? And maybe Jenny or Karen can weigh in on this as well. But just this, and this was in your board packet. Improved and better patient flow, improved patient care, better patient privacy, segregation of infectious patients. We'll have a consultation room that we don't have right now. Addition of 2 procedure rooms, addition of a dedicated triage room. We'll have 2 exam rooms that will be convertible to behavioral health rooms. A more centralized nurses station that provides much better visibility to all the different exam rooms, trauma rooms, treatment rooms. So those are, I guess, very high-level reasons for making this change. I guess, I don't know if Jenny or Karen wants to comment on that.
Yeah, I think we just kind of simply outgrew the space we're in. When I started my position about 15 years ago down there, we saw about 3,000 or 3,200 a year, and now it's up to about 5,500. So 5 rooms just in those busy times just does not cut it. And then the safety factor, having those 2 behavioral health rooms will improve safety for those patients, dignity for those patients, and just having that critical care side will really improve care. The workflow is going to be great, and we're pretty excited about this new venture, really.
It's due.
It is, yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, I just think, I just love how the planning has gone, and I just think the centralized nurses station and supply area, and it's just going to be great.
Good.
Okay, so the total cost that we would be looking at with the construction and the equipment cost is $7,784,000. We do have a $1 million USDA grant that will go towards that. This Mindray monitoring is, we're going to treat that as a separate project because it will impact not only the ER, but med-surg and surgery and OB as well, but there will be some costs associated with that at a later time as a different project.
What is that, Barry?
Do you want to talk about that?
It's the telemetry monitoring that we have in the rooms. There's monitors in ER, surgery up on West, I don't think, and outpatient specialty clinic. And what it does is it monitors your vitals, sends all that information to a central nursing station so they can remotely monitor how the patient is doing. That system we installed 5 years ago, and obviously technology has changed, and as we want to add additional units to the system, unfortunately now it has to be upgraded. So we need to upgrade that system. It's going to affect the entire hospital. So that's why we have left it out of the ED, because we're treating it as a hospital project.
So there was a question on, so this was the schedule that Kim went over. We're looking at starting in July. I think you said finish July of 24?
August of
24. So the temporary ER department, I put this in front of you before, but I don't know if the newer board members have seen this. So we're going to have a temporary location for the ER while this project is ongoing. Just to give you an idea of where you're at here. So this is the north visitor entrance. So as you come in the north visitor entrance, we have the west conference room here. And then that lobby area, which will become the ED reception area. And then as you come down that hallway, this is the inpatient nurses station. You head to the east, and down that hallway is where we're going to have our temporary ER. This is going to help quite a bit with the disruption. There's a lot of disruption that will be going on, obviously, with that project. So I think this will be much better for our practitioners, for our nurses, and for our patients as well during that project. There's been a committee that's been working on this for probably, I don't know, 6-7 months, planning for this change. I think we're meeting later this week to talk about, kind of finalize those plans. So that will happen sometime in July, that we will make that transition, moving everything up to this temporary ER. Any other comments from anyone on that?
Ambulance reception will be, we have the long ramp there. That is where an ambulance will receive, or we will receive the ambulance, and then the beds will be wheeled up coming into the business office, and that first room on the bottom right in the green is the trauma room. So we're coming straight in and almost straight into that room. So processes are in place to accommodate that. Also, there'll be new signage out on the street showing, ambulance entry versus patient, visitor entrance. So we do have a signage plan and a social media plan that we're putting together to advertise to ensure people go to the right location. Because once we do close the entry to the existing ED, we've got to be sure people know where to go.
And that's right out here?
Correct, yeah. To give you an idea where, we're in this room right here. So this is the entry right here that you come in and then park in front of Barry's office over here. So they'll come in, they'll back in. We have a ramp that's coming that they'll just ramp up to the concrete platform that's already there and an entrance already in place. These doors are secured on both ends, so we can prevent people from walking through the emergency department. We have a plan to put directions on the floor in the first level so that people can follow the red arrows to the west elevator to come up, which is located here, so they can come up and get into and visit that way if need be.
But if I have to walk in, I would walk in.
Yep, this is still an entry for visitors and for the emergency reception. We have new cameras put, I think in this room, so we can monitor here. We put another camera pointing here as well as one out here. So we've got video visibility into all of the entrances. We can see who's coming in. Plus the desk here will have direct visibility out here and here so that they can monitor anybody coming in and assist if need be. We'll have a desk and all the support there that they need to process patients as they come in and admit. And then everything here has been modified, all basically ready to go. Just need to move the equipment.
What or who have we displaced?
Nobody really.
Okay.
Ann Buman sits here. She is going to move to an office that's right here. We have done a couple movements here to rearrange staff. This is the nurse's locker room, which will remain. These rooms were originally infusion rooms that we moved about a year ago or better over into west on the south hallway. This, I guess we did replace physical therapy. They were in this room. They went to room 220 within West, which puts them actually closer to all the patients and have better process. We've modified this for our trauma room. This originally was centralized scheduling a number of years ago, and when we rebuilt the third floor and added a business office where the old pharmacy was, centralized scheduling moved up to there, so that's been empty for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then this was the beauty room. The auxiliary gave that room up because it wasn't used as much as they would like.
On the receiving for ambulances, is there room for multiple squads?
Yes.
Just backing in single file? Or?
They would, primary would be here straight in, but there's enough room here and on the other side for additional ambulances. All of this currently is handicap parking. We would remove the handicap signs and replace them with ambulance parking only. So they would be reserved for the ambulance.
Maybe to go along with Mike's question, is parking changed in that parking lot?
Out here it will change. Access to the helicopter is the main reason. On the far northeast corner, which is just right out here on this closest to us, will become the temporary helipad for the duration of the project and construction. So we've talked with the helicopter company. We have what we need to do. We feel that there are enough spots, people will end up having to walk a little further, but we can accommodate the additional spots. I think we lose 20 parking locations due to the helicopter. So we have 20 on the back side that we frequently just go out and count just to ensure what is the volume, count on the different days, because the beginning of the week has more staff than the end of the week. Weekends are much lighter because the business and non-patient support aren't here, so.
So to clarify, it's the employee parking lot,
Yeah.
not patient parking. Patient parking is also here.
Okay.
We feel like we will have enough for emergency room, senior life, and visitor in that parking lot. I think we'll be okay.
What's the time? When are you trying to make that change?
Which change?
Opening up the new emergency room?
It would be, if construction starts, I think on the date, it's the 17th of July.
July 17th.
The last meeting, we used the 24th as the beginning date, and we got an updated schedule here just a few days ago. We'll plan on at least a week prior to construction beginning, because we want to get everybody moved, everything working. Then we have to go and salvage equipment we want out of the old ED. So that gives us a week to get all of that equipment.
Thanks. This did decrease the timeframe on the project as well. I think it was 5 months. 5 months, which then also reduced the cost of the project as well. So I guess there's that. That's obviously an important added benefit to this as well. I want Ken and Matt to talk a little bit about this as kind of a high level of viewing from a couple thousand feet from basically our site. And this is hard to see exactly. So we've got Highway 44 running here. This is 12th Street. Our current ambulance garage is right here. I'm looking at this right.
Correct.
Yep, that's right.
So right now our MRI truck parks right here. We are going to move that down.
It's straight down.
Yeah,
Into this
right
area
down
here?
Up, down further. Yep, right in
Right in
there.
there. Okay. And maybe you guys can talk about these lanes, the discussion about we've got two alternatives for getting the MRI truck into that location while this project is ongoing. I don't know if we've made the decision of coming off 12th Street versus coming off of Highway 44.
Correct.
I think more ideally it would be, I mean, really, the reason for this is we need the MRI truck to be able to come in, turn down towards the south and back into that area. They can't just back into those areas without having one of these lanes in existence. We think there's a good chance that we're kind of leaning towards coming off of 12th Street. If we do an expansion to the east of the physician's clinic, we will need that ambulance lane anyway. Down the road, 5 years down the road or whatever that might be. But the other thing, the main thing I wanted them to talk about was this kind of staging area. We've not had the best aesthetics of that area over the last 2 years during this last project. So we really want this to be a little, it's not going to be visibly pleasing, but hopefully it's organized a lot more neatly than what we've seen in the past. But it is a necessity. We're going to have that space utilized. We're just now in the process of getting it cleaned up from the last project. Well, we're going to be jumping right into this project in July. So for all of you and for the public, and we'll do get a lot of information out to the public regarding this. But so Matt, maybe just talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So that was a really great introduction. So this red area down here, that's going to be just a rock laydown area. So most all of our construction's up here. There's a little bit over here to prep for the MRI. But this allows us to have, keep our traffic away from the building as best as possible while still being adjacent to it. So we'll stage materials over here. We'll have an office trailer. We have a couple office trailers. This green area will be fenced down here, and we'll have filter fabric on the outside. So there'll be some block per side. It's a little transparent, but better than just a straight chain link fence. As Barry said, we got drives through here to logistically allow trucks to get in and drop in that laydown area. Also in this section, while it's rocked, we're going to have our office trailer will be there, so we don't have to be inside the facility with dirty boots and dirty traffic from the construction crews. It'll be all outside. This is still a kind of a TBD on this MRI truck, whether they use this path or this path, but right now we have allocated for both, so we have the options there, whichever works best for their path. Then up around the site, so again, we'll have fencing along the curb line at that intersection to divide our construction site from the public. Again, it'll be covered. We'll have gates either side for delivery trucks to come through, pull out, and on their way. So yeah, we understand that this is a visible corner, and it's our job to keep it clean and tidy. But given that amount of space, it makes it a little easier to make it look organized.
Yeah, we'll keep it mowed, keep it organized, weed eat the weeds, that kind of stuff in our areas.
Just keep the fabric tied down, that's what I would ask.
The fabric, it can kind of be a wind deal, you're right.
Yeah.
That's a constant maintenance thing with those fences.
So any other questions on that?
We also have included keeping the public streets clean. As we bring trucks in and out, we'll have skid loader with power berm on it to make sure that we're being good neighbors to everyone around us in the city.
Yeah, so there'll be some rock here as trucks are pulling off the site, and then we'll also have some sweepers to keep the adjacent roads clean.
Yep.
So you're proposing to put that, like a concrete driveway south of the new project that we just built, right? That cup project?
This here is currently shown as just a temporary rock drive, but it's 22 feet wide, so it could easily be transitioned into a...
We will have to do a curb cut and probably force an approach to get onto that, up to the sidewalk. So.
But it won't hinder any of the existing project that we just got done?
No.
Wow.
Okay. Thanks. So then we're getting to the part where we need approval from the board to move forward with the project. So we've got some bullet points here. Approval of the ED expansion and renovation at a cost of $7,458,527. And then the $326,370 for equipment cost. We also need to have approval, approval of a contract with Myrtue Company with a guaranteed maximum price of the $7.4 million as a construction manager at risk. So I guess maybe if we could get approval, two different motions, one for the approval of the overall project, and then at the cost of, I believe it comes up to, what was that? 7784897. And then also approval of the contract with Myrtue Company for that portion of the $7.4 million.
I'll make a motion to do the approval of the ED expansion renovation for the $7.7 million.
We have a motion on the expansion and renovation of the ED department, of ED. Have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tom. Motion and second. Discussion.
I got one question. With the construction manager at risk, we're talking about the monetary maximums. Is there a time constraint? Is there any consequences for past August of 24 if it gets there?
That is the time frame that they have put on there. We don't have anything written into the contract for a performance guarantee, I don't believe. That may be something we can look at. The other is the USDA grant. We have to have this project completed by essentially December 31st of 24 in order to be fully compliant with that grant and receive that $1 million.
We do have an attorney reviewing this contract, so once we get approval from the board, we'll finalize those discussions and then get the contract approved. And I'm not sure if there's anything in there for that right now, but that'll be a discussion point with the attorney.
Thanks, Mike. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We need a motion for the contract with Murray Company for the guaranteed maximum price as our construction manager.
Can we put that timetable in that piece? Can we work on that in there?
What?
On
No,
this.
no, just putting that time constraint in that motion with Murray's contract. You know, that you're gonna have your attorney look at. Can we maybe modify that motion to include that?
What would you like it to say as far as?
Well, I think we have a December
That it has to be
hard
done,
date
yeah.
to lose $1 million.
I want it done by then. I don't wanna sit there and, like, where this thing is, this cup project has gone on for another year and a half.
August
Not that long.
August was the date it was supposed to be completed, and here what, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. We're on our 8th month past the due date.
I think that's our concern, is just mainly that.
So there's a way to put damages in the contract if it goes beyond a certain date, so that's what we would be looking at doing. So if you want to put something in the motion about having the project complete by December of, I guess you can do that.
Is that all right,
I think that
Jan?
would be prudent.
To add your
I really
motion?
do.
Okay. So we've added the completion, drop dead completion date of December 24
With an expected completion date of August.
with an okay, all right.
I would say, I mean, adherence to the calendar as presented would be what we'd like to see,
Right.
right? Yeah.
All right. Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'll call for, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Yeah, just a couple other items. I just wanted to give you an update on this rural emergency hospital designation. Just, if you hear about that, you may hear a little bit about it. It's a new designation for rural hospitals that went into effect January 1 of 23. The Iowa Hospital Association had a lot to do with moving this forward. It didn't end up exactly the way we would have liked to see it. Basically, it allows some of these very, very small rural hospitals that maybe have an average daily census of 2 or 3 to basically give up their inpatient services and really focus on outpatient services. From a financing standpoint, they would get a lump sum payment, large lump sum payment each year. And then in addition to that, they would get a 5% add-on for their outpatient services. So at 5% above what a PPS hospital would receive or an urban hospital. And that's kind of where the problem lies with this program is 5% above PPS rate is less than what critical access hospitals are receiving right now for outpatient services. So I could see maybe a few hospitals in the state of Iowa looking at this, the very, very smallest hospitals. But I think the hope is as we move forward with this, that this program, they relook at that 5% and go back to more of a cost-based type reimbursement for outpatient services to really make it have some impact on the landscape of rural hospitals and how they're funded. But it's a move in the step in the right direction that they've come up with this new designation for those very small hospitals. It won't impact us anytime in the near future, but you may be hearing a little bit about that program, so I wanted to make sure and we've talked about it a little bit here so you know what it's about whenever you hear about it.
It was on the news last week, I believe, is where I heard it.
Was it? Then physician recruitment, Jill was going to make some comments on where we're at with physician recruitment.
Yep. So since we started our search for a family practice physician with obstetrics who also does C-section, we have expanded that search to also include either family medicine without OB, and/or internal medicine, and that is to broaden our pool, if you will. Since then, late last year, we've been presented 6 physician candidates. 4 of them are residents currently in their program, and 2 are practicing physicians. And when you break those down, we've been pleased with what we've been presented. 4 of them have been family practice physicians with OB, just like what our priority is. 1 is a family practice physician alone, and 1 internist. 3 of the 6 we are still considering that we're pursuing. 1 we have lost some confidence in, just haven't heard from one of the candidates for about 3 weeks. Dr. Brian Anderson and I are meeting with 2 physicians this Thursday. 1, a practicing physician from the Midwest, wants to do OB and cesarean sections as well. 1 is new in his residency program, but an Iowa native, and so really wants to stay in Iowa and practice in Iowa. So we're hopeful that those initial conversations, turn out positive for us.
Okay. Thanks, Jill. Just a few other comments on specialty physician coverage. I've been working on this a lot over the last year. I mean, it's kind of a continuous process, I guess, in trying to keep a really broad slate of specialists coming out here to Harlan. So a few updates. Dr. Anderson did mention Dr. Denning was here at our medical staff meeting. He's taking over for Dr. Brandt. We will still have 2 days per week of coverage from Methodist, but Dr. Denning will cover about 3 days per month. And then we have a couple of mid-level practitioners, Brooke Lorenzen and Carly Clare, that will fill in the rest of those 2 days per week. And so I think that's it's going to be a good transition with Dr. Brandt retiring. I wanted to talk about ophthalmology. We are going to start having Dr. Thornton come out 1 day per month. Right now we have Dr. Liu coming 1 day per month, so we'll double our coverage for ophthalmology moving forward. I think she's slated to start May 23rd. And I think there's still some things that we're working on credentialing, getting her Iowa license. So hopefully we'll have all that in place by the 23rd so she can start at that time. We've also been working on replacing Dr. Dean, our psychiatrist. For the last probably year, we've been working on that. We do have a signed contract with ITP, which is the telehealth company that we used for behavioral health in our emergency room department. We're no longer working with them for emergency room, but we still utilize them for senior life solutions. And we'll now be utilizing them for our outpatient behavioral health, and we'll use Dr. Larson. She'll be about 16 hours per month, and she'll provide supervision of the PAs and nurse practitioners, behavioral health PAs and nurse practitioners, and then she'll also do some med management as well, so patient care as well. And I think that's my update. We're still working on oncology coverage. Would like to get more coverage. I've had several discussions with Methodist about potentially helping us get additional oncology coverage. We'd like to get a little bit more pulmonology coverage as well. Dr. Mukherjee's great, but he's only coming out sometimes once every other month. We'd at least like to get him back to once a month, and then possibly have some mid-level support as well for pulmonology. It's kind of what we're working towards now. So that's all that I have.
Any questions for Barry? All right, moving on. Christy?
So I handed out the February financials. We didn't have a board meeting last month, so, but we'll go through March. just kind of high level here. So the March 2022 and 2023 comparisons. So year to date for outpatient visits, we've seen a 5.1% increase. Emergency room visits, we've seen a 1.7% decrease. We are at 4,261 so far this year. So we are, as Jenny says, we do continue to see higher and higher numbers there in emergency room visits. Our surgical procedures are down 2.7%. Our rural health clinic visits are down 9%. Our behavioral health visits are up 8.3%. Our average daily census is down 11.5%. You can see it's a shift from acute patients to more of observation and swing bed patients. We have had an increase of 10 births, so that's a 16.7% increase this year over the same period last year. We are currently at almost a little over $39 million in net operating revenue, which is a 6.7% increase from last year. Expenses are at $39.3 million expenses, so there's 7.4% increase from last year. 15.9%, 15,900 operating gain. Non-operating net is a 32% decrease from last year at almost $2 million. That accounts for investment returns. We've had some COVID, continued to have some grants there, and some our property taxes. So our net change in our fund balance is $2 million, which is a 37.6% decrease from last year. Last year there was more COVID funding there, so that's the decrease there. Our financial report is still strong. We have seen a decline in our current assets of about $6.7 million, but 4.5% increase in our fixed assets because we're finishing the CUP project, some other capital equipment purchases that we've made, and we have repaid the advances in Medicare funding that we've got during COVID, which was another $6.8 million. So we still are pretty strong in our assets, and liabilities are continuing to grow. So we still do have a strong financial report. Any questions? I know that's kind of quick, but questions? And I did give you your 4-year comparison too, so you can see our 4-year continued changes there and the declines during the COVID period and where we've come back.
We need a motion on the approval of the monthly financial statements as presented. We have a motion and a second. A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The payroll and claims for February and March were both in your packet. You've had time to review those. We need a motion for the approval of those.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this point in time, we need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll move to go into closed session.
Second. It's 8:45. Need a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.